The anime begins with Masamune remembering the first and last time he saw his little stepsister Sagiri a year ago. From the day she arrived home, she locked herself in her room and did not come out again. Masamune works as a light novel author while attending high school. He began working with his illustrator Eromanga-sensei 3 years ago without knowing his face, and to commemorate the completion of his series, Masamune attended his first autograph signing and fears that his classmates will find out about his work, but luckily it seems that no one has noticed. That afternoon, Masamune tells his friend Tomo that he searched for himself on social media and people were complaining about his signature, and she laughs and tells him that his illustrator Eromanga-sensei also criticized him. But there is something else. Eromanga is going to do a live stream at night. When he gets home, he prepares dinner and brings a tray of food to Sagiri. Although he only saw her once, he makes sure she eats every day. Masamune is very excited about Eromanga-sensei's live stream since the illustrator will do a quick drawing demonstration at the end. The illustrator turns on the webcam and uses a mask to say goodbye to his fans. But Masamune sees that in the background of the room is the tray of food that he left for Sagiri. She says goodbye to her fans and doesn't realize that she forgot to turn off the webcam and begins to. Then Masamune runs to Sagiri's room and starts banging on the door like crazy to make her turn off the live stream before the entire world sees her, and she turns it off. Suddenly, Sagiri's door opens and Masamune sees her for the first time in a year. She tries to deny that she is Eromanga-sensei because she is embarrassed, but he tells her that her work is great and erotic. That embarrasses Sagiri even more, and she closes the door in his face. The next day, Masamune goes to see his editor I.am and brings her manuscripts for his new series and scripts, in case they are successful in making an anime. I.am is surprised at how fast he works, and he says that he first did it as a hobby, but now he needs the money. Then I.am shows him a farewell drawing that Eromanga-sensei sent him since the series they were working on together has already ended. That moves Masamune, and he runs back home. He tells Sagiri through the door that he's the author she has been working with these years, and she opens the door surprised and invites him into her room. Sagiri is very shy and speaks softly, so she puts on a microphone and speaker so he can listen to her, and he tells her how he discovered that she is Eromanga-sensei and asks for forgiveness for making her draw. She blushes, saying that she enjoys drawing those scenes but prefers not to say it out loud. Then she starts complaining that he works a lot even in the summer, and sometimes he even forgot to bring her food and didn't listen to her when she kicked the floor, and he just smiles and says that he thinks it's wonderful that she draws, manages her blog, and do live stream. Sagiri, with a sad voice, tells him that her mother taught her to draw since she was a little kid, but since the accident where their parents she was not able to draw until she saw a live stream of someone drawing and chatting with fans, and she started to do the same, and that filled her heart with joy. Masamune says that he is also an author because it makes him happy, and she asks why he takes care of her even though she is troublesome. And he says that they are family and her mother always asked him to take care of her. So he wants to get along with her now that they finally see each other's faces, but she doesn't consider that two people living in the same roof are family. So she gets sad and asks him to leave her room. He understands her sadness and thanks her for the illustration she made for him and leaves. Chapter 2. The next day, a Sagiri's classmate named Megumi goes to their house and starts flirting with Masamune, but he doesn't even realize her intentions, so she accuses him of being because boys always fall in love with her at first sight, but he assures her that's not the case because he's become immune to girls since washing his sister's. It turns out that Megumi wants Sagiri go back to school, so Masamune goes to Sagiri's room so she can go down to talk to Megumi. But instead, Sagiri calls him on his cell phone and throws a tantrum because he let Megumi in and asks to throw her out of the house, but he tells her to at least listen to her. So Masamune returns to Megumi using an earpiece so Sagiri can hear the conversation. But Megumi says that she aims to make friends with the entire middle school and only Sagiri is missing, and that upsets Sagiri because she dislikes people like Megumi. But Megumi says that the best way to get Sagiri out of her room is to cut off the internet, but Masamune strongly objects and Megumi says that you don't need the internet if you have real friends. That angers Sagiri, who shouts that it's not true through the earpiece. Megumi realizes that Sagiri was listening to them through the earpiece and tricks Masamune by taking the phone away from him and tells him that Sagiri hung up the call. But in reality, Megumi transferred the call to her cell phone so Sagiri can hear what Masamune has to say about her without knowing that she is listening. So Masamune starts praising Sagiri, saying that she is a pretty girl, a good artist, and he is proud of her. It doesn't matter if she doesn't have friends in person, since she has many people who love her. All of this surprises Megumi and teases him by saying that they have a love relationship between brother and sister, since they do not share blood, and he gets serious and makes it clear to her that it is not the case. After that, Megumi leaves and says that she won't give up and she will get Sagiri back to school. Later, Masamune receives a call from I.am. She says that all the manuscripts he submitted were not approved and he must write new ideas, so he spends the whole night writing new ones. The next day, he goes to his friend Tomo's bookstore to check if his novel is selling, and sadly, he hasn't sold any, so he moves them around and puts them on top of the popular novels, but Tomo scolds him because that place is reserved for the best-selling novels like Yamada Elf's ones and promises him that she will put his novels there when his are a success. After that, he goes to the editorial office and sees that Ayam is being yelled at by an annoying blonde girl. She demands that Eromanga be her illustrator, since the best illustrator has to be paired with the best author in Japan, Yamada Elf. Then Masamune jumps in and says that Eromanga is his illustrator, but the girl throws a tantrum saying that money talks and surely Eromanga prefers a bestseller to an unknown author. That scares Masamune and he runs home to beg Sagiri not to abandon him, but she doesn't understand what he's talking about. So in his shaved voice, she tells him that from now on she will wash her. He is forbidden to touch it again. Chapter 3 days later, Megumi goes to their house and this time she brings all of her classmates to ask Sagiri to return to school, but Masamune throws them out because they will only get Sagiri to lock herself in her room more. After that, Megumi gives him a neighborhood circular since they left it lying around, and Masamune tells her that everyone's afraid to go near the neighborhood because they bring misfortunes, for example his family, and in the neighboring house. There used to live an author who passed away of illness, and sometimes the people can hear the piano and a woman wearing a white dress. Surprisingly, Megumi sees someone in the window of the house next door and they both get scared. Masamune goes to check that Sagiri is okay, but she hugs him scared and tells him that she can hear the piano from the house next door and asks him to go see if there is a ghost. He goes to spy through the window and is surprised to see Yamada Elf playing the piano, and she runs to dress up and accuses him of being a pepping Tom. Then she tells her that she moved to Tokyo to be closer to the anime production offices, and this hose was bought by herself thanks to all the money she earns. She invites him in and he does it, but reluctantly, because he fears that the rumors of ghosts are real. She assures him that there are no ghosts, and if there are, she would use it as inspiration for a novel. Then he criticizes that she uses a lot of in her novels, and she says that is art and fans love it, that's why she's #1 on Oricon. But he says that money and popularity are not everything, and he challenges her to write an interesting light novel. The winner gets Eromanga-sensei. After that, Masamune runs to the house to tell Sagiri about the challenge, but Yamada Elf starts shooting arrows at him from the window to Sagiri's window. She is angry because he ran away too quickly, and she complains that he saw her. Angers Sagiri, and she kicks him out of her room. The next day, Elf invites Masamune to visit her studio where she writes her novels and realizes that he is a fan because he is happy to receive an autographed novel. Coincidentally, from Elf's study, he can see Sagiri's room and he sees how happy she looks when she draws. Then Elf tells him that she plans to find out Eromanga's identity and shocks Masamune when she tells him everything she has found out about the illustrator, since everything is true and she is closer than she imagines. To distract her, he says that he will make sure that Eromanga-sensei reads their 2 novels. Elf asks him why he is her fan, and he tells her that when he was going through a very painful time in his life, her novels made him laugh, and he believes that her novels saved his life and thanks her for it. And she says that surely he also saved the life of some reader with his novels, and that makes him respect her as an author. Days later, that respect evaporates because she refuses to write because she has no inspiration, and she scolds him because he writes nonstop everything that comes to his mind, and that's why so many of his manuscripts are rejected, and she tells him that tomorrow she will show him how to write a good light novel. Chapter 4. The next day, Masamune goes next door and is greeted by Elf dressed as a maid. She invites him to eat with her, and he is disappointed because he thought she was going to teach him how to improve his manuscripts, but she tells him that it's what she's doing. For example, if she wants to write a light novel with a maid theme. Now she knows how it feels to be a maid feeding her master, and Masamune finally understands how she is so good. After that, Elf packs food for his sister and he takes it, but Sagiri does not accept it and says that he is a liar. He had told her that he didn't get along with their neighbor, but he spends a lot of time with her lately. Then Masamune tells her that he will show her that he is a good brother. His next light novel will have a younger sister as the heroine, but that makes her sad too. Several days later, Masamune goes to Elf's house to compare their manuscripts and is surprised to see her working hard since the day before she said that she did not have a single written word. They both start reading each other's novel, and Masamune is delighted and thinks that Eromanga-sensei's illustrations would combine perfectly with it, while Elf is red with rage and throws a tantrum saying that she cannot compete with his novel, because it is as if he had written it for his little sister. Although her story would sell millions, his is a masterpiece made exclusively for Eromanga-sensei. Masamune is surprised that Elf has deduced that Sagiri and Eromanga are the same person, and she encourages him to show her to Sagiri since she lost the manuscript challenge. Since Sagiri has ignored him for days, Masamune jumps from Elf's window to Sagiri's window and gets a good blow and a slap from Sagiri for doing something so dangerous, and he says that he did it because she hasn't opened the door for him since long ago. Then Sagiri shows him that all these days she has been practicing new ways of drawing, fight scenes, and more exuberant female bodies. It turns out that Sagiri thought that their next-door neighbor is an illustrator, and he was meeting with her because he wanted to change illustrator since Eromanga-sensei is not good at drawing fight scenes. That moves Masamune, and he tells her that it's quite the opposite, Their neighbor is Yamada Elf, and she wanted her as her illustrator, and he just wanted to improve as an author, so Eromanga never abandoned him. Sagiri is relieved and angry at the same time because she would always choose him even without reading the manuscripts. He is happy when he hears it and is a little flustered when he gives her the manuscript, but she is delighted when she reads it. Finally, the misunderstandings are resolved between them, so Sagiri confesses that there is someone she loves, and Masamune, somewhat crestfallen, understands that this is something that sooner or later had to happen and also confesses something to her. He has a dream he wants to fix this manuscript and turn it into a good light novel that is worthy of reaching #1 Oricon and being adapted into an anime, and after earning a lot of money, he will buy a huge television and a cake for the two, then together watch the first chapter of that anime together. That dream seems perfect to Sagiri, and she says that they are in that dream together, and for the first time in a long time, Sagiri takes a step out of her room. Chapter 5 days later, Masamune can't stop thinking about who will be the person Sagiri loves. So when he brings her breakfast, he confesses that he fell in love with her at first sight the first time he saw her years ago, but he won't get between her and her love because he is a good brother. That makes Sagiri angry because he didn't understand her confession. After that, he tells her that he wants her help to improve the manuscript and present it to the publisher, and asks her to draw the heroine of the story as a lewd younger sister, and she follows his instructions to draw, but they are interrupted by messages asking help sent by Elf. At first, he doesn't pay attention to her, but after that, Elf starts shooting arrows at Sagiri's window, and he realizes that she is running away from someone and catches her when she jumps off the balcony. It turns out that the security team from her publishing house went to check on her to make sure she works normally, but she likes to procrastinate and hates being checked on because she can write good novels in a day. Masamune agrees to give her shelter on the condition that she helps them improve the manuscript to present the project proposal to the publisher, and she accepts but asks to meet Eromanga-sensei. Sagiri is shy, so she puts on her mask and talks to her on a video call. At first, Elf is surprised when talking to Sagiri since she asks her body questions that match with her pseudonym, but not with the heroine of Masamune's story. But to get to know each other better, she suggests play online video games. Afterwards, Masamune goes to buy snacks for the girls and almost has a heart attack when he walks in and sees that Elf is showing her to Sagiri in exchange for a nudist illustration. So he sells her out to the security of her publishing house and they take Elf. At night, Ayan tells Masamune that she will get him a spot to publish his new light novel if he presents a good project proposal. Then Sagiri shows him the new illustrations that she made thanks to Elf's panties, but the days go by and she can't draw other types of female bodies because she doesn't have the necessary inspiration. So she asks him to find a girl willing to show her to her. He thinks she's crazy, but he plans to do it anyway. One night, Masamune receives a call from Megumi and asks if Sagiri has left her room yet. He says that she has made progress like making a friend that frustrates Megumi because she wanted to be Sagiri's first friend, but she has a new plan to get her out of the house and tells him that she will see him at Tomo's bookstore. At the bookstore, he tells Tomo that he is looking for curvy models for inspiration, and she offers herself since she meets the requirements, but immediately backs out when he tells her that she has to show her to Eromanga-sensei. At that moment, Megumi arrives at the bookstore and tells him that she already knows that he is a light novel author and thinks that the best way to become friends with Sagiri is to start reading creepy otaku novels, and she says it in such a derogatory way that Tomo and he are offended. Chapter 6. Tomo is the most offended of the two, so she recommends her to read the top light novels of the moment to turn her into an addict, and her plan works. The next day, Megumi calls Masamune to ask him when the sequel of the novels she is reading comes out, but he tells her that it is not known yet, but to fill that void she must read other light novels, and now she can talk to Sagiri because they both have a common taste. The next day, Masamune tells Sagiri that Megumi will come to see her, but she says that she will only see her if Megumi agrees to be her model for her illustrations, and Megumi accepts excitedly because she already worked as a model before. But Sagiri demands that Megumi enters her room blindfolded and tied by her hands, but when Sagiri sees her, she is immediately inspired and begins to draw her from all angles. Megumi gets uncomfortable because she feels Sagiri surrounding her, so Masamune starts chatting with her to distract her, but everything goes downhill when Sagiri pulls down Megumi's to draw her better. Immediately, Megumi begins to cry and Sagiri removes the blindfold from her eyes and apologizes wholeheartedly and lends the most favorite novels to her to compensate for her bad time, and although they are not friends yet, they make the pinky promise to share more light novels. Days later, Masamune takes his project proposal to Ayam and she tells him that it will be published next year since the spot that she had saved for him was given to Muramasa-sensei, a star author of the publishing house. He tells all this to Sagiri and she thinks that he is worried about money and offers to contribute to the household expenses. But he tells her that that is not a problem. He promised his aunt that he would work constantly to maintain their lifestyles, and if he stops working for a year, that promise will be broken. Then Sagiri suggests publishing his work with another publisher, but he doesn't know other publisher. Suddenly, Elf comes through the window and says that her older brother isn't publisher, and she will take him to see him. But Elf's brother wants Masamune to talk to IAM first before changing editors, so Elf takes him out for coffee before the meeting. Masamune says that she likes to distance herself from the readers by being tsundere and saying that the most important thing is sales, but in reality, she appreciates them. However, she says that Muramasa-sensei has taken her #1 from her several times. After that, they run to the publishing house because they are running late and bump into a shy girl wearing a yukata. Elf immediately realizes that she is an author and thinks she is a rookie and begins to belittle her since she says that she doesn't know Yamada Elf, although she has sold 2 million copies. The three enter the company and IAM attends them together and tells Masamune that she will not let him go to another publisher. But she came up with an idea. She wants him to participate in the publisher's rookie author contest. He is not a rookie, but she pulled her influence to let him participate. If he wins, his novel will be published this year. Masamune thanks IAM with all his heart because he thinks he can win easily and fulfill his dream. But the yukata girl gets angry and says that she will not let him fulfill his dream and signs up for the contest, surprising him when he reads that she is Muramasa-sensei. Chapter 7. Unlike before, Muramasa leaves behind the shy girl facade and starts talking to them arrogantly, saying that the reason her project is postponed for a year is because she intentionally took his spot and now wants to crush his dream in the contest. Elf gets angry and starts to complain, but Muramasa silences her, because a girl who only sold 2 million copies can't talk to someone like her, who has sold more than 14 million copies. Masamune also gets angry and tells her that this time he will not allow to be crushed by her and challenges her. If he wins, she will have to stop getting in his way, but if she wins, she can ask him anything and Muramasa accepts. After that, he goes home and tells Sagiri what happened and apologizes to her for putting their dream on the line. But she says it's okay because Muramasa made fun of their dream and now they have to defeat her. Then Elf asks him how he plans to defeat her, and he says that he plans to adapt the novel he made of Sagiri to the short novel format of the contest, and Elf agrees since that is his only work with the potential of defeating someone as strong as Muramasa, although he doesn't know how to write short formats. So he begins an intensive training under the tutelage of Elf in order to adapt his light novel to a short format without losing quality. After several days, Elf says that he is already a decent writer of short stories. Suddenly, they receive a visit from Muramasa. She tells Masamune to give up on his dream and write for her. He doesn't understand what she means, but Elf does, and tells her to come in to talk to the living room. As soon as she has a table, Muramasa starts writing and he thinks it is some continuation of her novels, but she doesn't even remember the name of her stories because she writes for herself and not for others since she likes to read a lot. She only became a writer because she can write a lot without her family criticizing her for it, and she is not able to read other people's stories because she cannot find works that she likes, except one writer, but his work ended, so now she is looking to create works that she considers masterpieces and not just very good works. Masamune understands her dream, but what he doesn't understand is why she wants to crush his dream, and she confesses to him that the only novel she loves is the one he wrote. She even read all his little stories when he was an amateur. She thinks that his perfect genre is fantasy battles, but since his series ended, he decided to change genres, and that has taken away her inspiration. So she intentionally treated him badly so he would return to the battle genre. But it turns out that he wants to enter the contest with a romantic comedy novel, and she says that if he needs the money so much, she will pay him whatever he wants as long as he returns to the babble genre and writes for her. To everyone's surprise, Sagiri gathered courage and went down to confront Muramasa and says that she will never hand Masamune over to her because she came first and will not give up until they fulfill their dream. Then Masamune says that the novel he is working on will be a masterpiece, and she leaves warning him that she hopes it will be that way. Days later, Murasama makes him read the new novel she wrote, and he realizes that it is about the two of them, and she confesses that she is in love with him, but he says that he cannot reciprocate her feelings because he is in love with someone else. More days later, the result of the contest is announced. The winner was Muramasa, but she was disqualified because she submitted an entire novel instead of a short novel. So the second place is the winner. Masamune can't believe that he is the winner and runs to celebrate with Sagiri, and she tells him that she liked the title he chose for the short novel, The World's Cutest Younger Sister. Chapter 8. Days later, Sagiri puts on a yukata and Masamune says that she is as pretty as Muramasa. That angers Sagiri because she knows that girl confessed her love to him. But he quickly says that he rejected Muramasa because the person he likes is still her, even though now Sagiri is in love with someone that doesn't change his feelings. Sagiri turns red and can't believe that he still doesn't understand her, so she closes the door in his face. The next day, Masamune goes to the editorial office to work all day and all night on his novel. So he leaves everything cooked for Sagiri, and she is in charge of closing doors and windows to walk freely around the house. At night, he calls Sagiri without knowing why. He has nothing to ask her, and she thinks he is very overprotective of her. On the afternoon of the next day, he is on his way home and runs into Elf. She tells him that she wants to have a rap party at his house since the publisher decided to publish the other works in the contest since they were all very good. He says that he would feel uncomfortable if Muramasa goes because he rejected her. But Elf says that the best way to overcome that situation is to spend time together as friends, and he thanks her for her advice and confesses that he sees her as an older sister, and she says that she would not like to have a younger brother like him. When he gets home, he calls Muramasa and invites her to the rap party, and she surprises him by quickly accepting the invitation and says that her love for him hasn't changed yet. The first to arrive at the party is Shido, the author who came in third place in the contest. Then Muramasa and Elf arrive wearing yukatas, and the two start fighting over Masamune, so Sagiri has to yell at them from the second floor to stop. So she decides to be present by video call wearing her Eromanga-sensei mask. Shido tells Masamune that he didn't know he was so popular with girls, but Sagiri gets angry and says that he is in love with someone, and he would never disrespect her, and Masamune agrees with her a little embarrassed. Shido is a little perplexed since he thinks that Eromanga-sensei is a man who has a relationship with Masamune. After dinner, the authors talk about the dreams they have. Shido wants his characters to be adapted to sweets and sold in bakeries. Elf wants to conquer the world, Muramasa wants to write the best novel in the universe, and Masamune wants his novel be a hit and be adapted to the anime to be able to see it with Sagiri. And finally, Sagiri says that her dream is to marry the person she loves. At the end of the party, Masamune feels sad to see the house empty again and goes up to see Sagiri, and she asks him if he feels alone. He says that since his biological mother passed away, he hates being alone because when he got a new family, misfortune struck him again, and now it is just the two of them. Suddenly, they hear the fireworks and go to the window to watch them, and Sagiri says that now she realizes that he misses having a family. She doesn't consider him a brother because they aren't, but since he feels so alone, she will pretend to be his sister for a bit. Chapter 9. Days later, Masamune, Shido, Muramasa, and Elf go to an island to have a good time since Elf invited them with the excuse of looking for new inspirations. At first, Masamune did not want to go, but Sagiri told him that he should go so he can advance towards their dream. On the island, they are welcomed by Chris, Elf's older brother, who is also her publisher. He wants to make sure they are there for work and not to lies around. They arrive at Elf's vacation house and are surprised at how big it is, and she says that they can share rooms or have one each, and Shido asks not to share a room with Masamune because he still thinks he is. Afterwards, Elf takes Masamune to the beach, taking advantage of the fact that the others did not arrive, and begins to create scenes as a form of inspiration. The first is the staple event at the beach. She takes off her swimsuit top and asks him to put sunscreen on her back, but he can't even move because Chris watches them from afar. The next scene that you want to play is lovey-dovey water splashing between two lovers, but he refuses. And finally, the third scene that Elf wants to play is a boy teaching the girl he likes to swim, but neither of them know how to swim, so they run out of ideas. Suddenly, Muramasa appears wearing a tight yelling at Elf that she's not going to let her get away with this, and Masamune gives his jacket to her to cover herself from. After that, they go in for a drink, and Muramasa says that she only agreed to come because she wants to read everything he writes, and he tells her that he will write her new random stories from the series that she liked so much and that he knows he could never sell. With everything resolved, the four of them have fun all day on the beach, and in the evening, Elf tells them that there are outdoor baths to end the day. While Masamune is relaxing in the water, Chris comes up to talk to him and asks him to marry his sister. Masamune almost has a heart attack when he hears that, but he explains that they are just friends. But Chris insists and tells him all the virtues of his sister, and Masamune recognizes that Elf is a good girl and would be a great wife, but he is in love with someone else. After that, everyone eats food made by Elf, and Masamune goes to his room to talk by video call with Sagiri. She tells him the progress she has made with her illustrations. Later, Elf invites Masamune to take a night walk with her, and takes him to the place where her father proposed her mother, but she rejected him because the place is full of insects and she hates them. But her father doesn't give up and continued asking her until she said yes. Masamune says that he would do the same for the person he loves. Then she tells him that she knows that her brother told him weird things. That's because when her father passed away, he asked her mother to educate them to be good adults to have a happy life, and she did that. Little Elf has been raised strictly to be a good wife, and she complied with everything her mother asked of her until she said that she would start looking for suitors for her. Then Elf revealed against her mom and said that she would find her own husband since she wants to have a marriage like her parents had, full of laughter and love. So she confesses to him that he is a candidate for her, because the two get along well and have fun together. She is sure that he will fall in love with her over time, and she asks him to call her by her real name when he asks her to marry him, Emily. Chapter 10. As soon as Masamune arrives at his room, he starts writing the novels he promised to Muramasa and stays writing all night. The next day, he gives them to her, and she is delighted because she already read everything he had given her before. Then he goes to sleep for a while before breakfast, but Elf comes into his room and says that today they have to recreate many scenes as if they were a couple, But Chris comes to the rescue and says that it is time to really work and not just laze. The four authors get to work, and Shido notices that Muramasa is happy because she is reading what Masamune wrote, and that makes him happy. Elf asks him if he likes Muramasa, and Shido says that he already knows that she's in love with someone else, and Muramasa turns red. But Elf tells her that everyone who read her contest novel realize that she is in love with someone. To get out of her shame, she shouts that she is in love with Masamune and only came to the island because Elf promised her that they would have moments alone that moves Masamune, but Elf leaves her like a weirdo because Muramasa talks alone imagining that she is with him. This baffles Masamune and he asks her not to do it anymore. Then Chris scolds them and the four of them start working under his watchful eye. Hours later, Chris leaves because he has things to do and Elf immediately encourages everyone to play the king's game. Muramasa doesn't want to, but Elf tells her that if she is the king, she will order Masamune to kiss her, and Muramasa quickly accepts. But in the game, Elf gets to be king first and orders Masamune to kiss Shido, who runs away in terror. To fill her place, they call Sagiri to play with them and ask her to be the king. But this power is very dangerous since her first order is for Elf to... But fortunately, she had her clothes, then Sagiri orders Muramasa to says the color of her... But she is not wearing them, so she faints from shame. Suddenly, Shido returns with Chris and he scolds them again and asks Elf to be like Muramasa, but she surprises them by saying that she will stop writing because she only wrote to read good stories, but now she settles for reading the stories written by Masamune. Then he tells her that he wants to show her something and takes her somewhere else and shows her a 50-page letter written by a fan. He says that this fan has been with him for many years since he posted his stories on the website and always sends him letters encouraging him. That fan is very precious to him and he always wanted to have her in front of him and thank her. Muramasa turns red and he thanks her for being by his side for so long and tells her how he discovered that she was his fan. Then Muramasa asks him confused how this was his dream, if he has a dream with Sagiri, and he says that people can have many dreams and when he fulfills his dream with Sagiri, he will not stop writing. That motivates Muramasa and says that she has a new dream, to make him fall in love with her. Chapter 11. Finally, Masamune returns home and gives Sagiri a gift. It is a straw hat that matches perfectly with the swimsuit she is wearing, and the two promise to go to the beach together one day. Days later, he tells Sagiri that tomorrow there will be an exhibition of their new novel, and he wants her to go with him. So she puts on her Eromanga-sensei mask and accompanies him by video call. She asks him when he started writing, and he tells her that when his mother passed away, his father saw him so sad that he asked him to find something that would make him happy, and he started writing stories on his cell phone and uploaded them to the web. Then he was happy again when one person read it. Then he asks her what she was doing back then, and she says that her parents had just gotten divorced, so she refused to go to school and spent her time reading stories on her cell phone. In fact, she was the first reader of Masamune since she read The Adventures of Masamune while he published it. She left him comments asking for more chapters, and when he finished that first story, she sent him a handmade drawing. Without knowing each other, this was what encouraged Masamune to be an author, and his father, upon seeing him so happy and enthusiastic, gave him a notebook so that he could start writing his professional stories. They both begin to remember years past without realizing that they were each other's source of comfort. Since after he finished his first story, they continued talking through cell phone, he continued writing, and she continued sending him drawings, and she even returned to school thanks to him. Until one day, little Masamune told her that he would become a professional author and asked that fan to become a professional illustrator to work together in the future, and Sagiri accepted, but said that she would not write to him anymore because she needed to focus all of her time on learning to draw professionally, and both kids made a promise they would talk to each other again the day they both became professionals. Back in the present, they arrive at Akihabara and tour the place ecstatic since the first step of their dream is fulfilled. While walking, they hear a girl say that she has a lot of faith in this new novel, and she wants to read it right away because of the illustrations. Asterisk, personage crossover de Oremo. Masamune and Sagiri are happy because at least they managed to attract a new reader. Chapter 12. Days later, Eromanga-sensei does a live stream to promote their new novel and promises to draw more cute illustrations since she will soon receive more inspiration. It turns out that Elf asks Sagiri for permission to allow Masamune to go to a data collection camp. In exchange, she and Murasamo will do everything Sagiri orders them to do. After the live stream, Sagiri tells Masamune that she promised the readers that volume 2 of the novel will be even better than the first, and he says that he's a bit slack since he has little experience with younger sisters. So he asks her to let him pat her head, and Sagiri allows it, but she blushes a lot and accuses him of having and throws him out of her room. After that, Masamune goes down to receive Elf and Muramasa, who are coming to the Eromanga-sensei festival. Muramasa at first does not know what she came for, but Elf assures her that everything that happens today will help Masamune, and she quickly accepts. Sagiri takes them to her room and tells them that the first thing she wants to see is two girls and is playing Twister, and when she gets them in a good position, she starts to draw them, but is interrupted by the arrival of Tomo. She came to give Masamune a doujinshi that was made of his new novel. Sagiri doesn't like girls, she doesn't know visiting him, but this time she will make an exception to her anger because she really wants to see the Eromanga they made of their novel and fights tooth and nail for him to let her see it. After reading the Eromanga, she also wants to draw her own and draws quickly to show her new work to them. The first to read it is Masamune, who turns red as a tomato because she drew several risque scenes and he doesn't know how to tell her that she poorly drew the character's male body. So he asks Elf for help and gives her the digital tablet to read the manga. Unlike him, she is fascinated by the but she can't find the error since she doesn't know the male body either. Unfortunately for him, Elf and Sagiri agree that the best way to get to know the male body is to see it right now and order him to take off his clothes, but he completely refuses and says that he will call someone to help them. Masamune calls Megumi and tells her the problem and strongly asks her to explain to the girls what the male body is like, since according to her, she has had a lot of boyfriends. But since this was a lie, Megumi sends them the drawing of her younger brother and Masamune realizes that Megumi doesn't know the male body either. Muramasa can't stand so much nonsense and says that she will draw them a real male body, and she draws Michelangelo's David and everyone is impressed by her maturity and knowledge. After that, the girls go back to their job of being muses for Eromanga-sensei, and the three of them have a lot of fun and promise to come back whenever Sagiri wants, and surprisingly, Sagiri goes one step further and opens her window for the first time in a long time and says goodbye to them. OVA 1. The Christmas season arrives and Elf organizes a party to celebrate the success of her new novel. Masamune and Sagiri are invited and the two dress elegantly for the occasion. And although Sagiri looks beautiful, she only accompanies him via video call. When he arrives at the party, he feels a little envious of all the money she earns and Shido agrees with him. Afterwards, Elf approaches her friends and they congratulate her and give gifts to her. For the second part of the party, Elf asks Masamune for help since her mother is coming and she wants to change her dress. But there is no one around. He helps her take off her dress but gets very nervous because Chris appears again to observe them closely. They clear up the misunderstanding and Chris is nervous because the last time he saw his mother was when he ran away from home. Suddenly, their mother arrives and the first thing she does is demand that Masamune break up with her daughter, since Elf sends her messages and photos all the time of her Japanese boyfriend, but he assures her that they are not dating and he loves someone else. After that, he leaves for Elf and Chris to talk to her mother alone, but the lady says that she did not come to celebrate Elf's success, but to take her home to choose a good husband for her. But Elf says that she is on the right track to get one. Her mother laughs contemptuously and says that Masamune is in love with someone else, and the hearts of foolish men like him do not change, but Elf is not willing to accept a forced marriage and she escapes the conversation. Chris says that she won't be able to convince her because Elf inherited their dad's personality, while he inherited hers and that's why they don't get along. Elf's celebration party continues, but she is hiding under some tables and Masamune joins her, and then she tells him everything she talked about with her mother, and he says that her mom loves her and is only worried about her, because that's how family is. Elf realizes that maybe it's true, so she decides to go out and give her speech, and instead of saying what she prepared, she prefers to be herself and sing a musical in which she tells everything she has to say to her mother, and she shouts to everyone that she loves a boy who is in love with someone else. But she doesn't plan on giving up because she always fights for what she loves because her only goal is to be happy. The musical moves everyone, even her mother, who, after listening to it, goes back home remembering her husband's last words and tells Elf that she can do whatever she wants. After the party, Elf thanks Masamune for his words that encouraged her to bring out everything she had inside in the musical, and confesses that her feelings began to take shape when he told her that one of her novels had saved his life, so now she can tell him without fear that she loves him. OVA 2 days later, Sagiri curls up in her bed because it is a very cold day, but she worries because Masamune is taking a while to bring her breakfast, and she worries even more when she sees him. He has a cold and a fever. She says that she is going to take care of him and forces him to lie in her bed, which makes him nervous because the bed and the blanket smell like Sagiri. Then he tells her that the medicines are downstairs, so Sagiri thinks she is doing everything for Masamune and manages to go down to the first floor. She brings him his medicine and tells him that he shouldn't worry about work or school, and Masamune is so tired that he falls asleep instantly. After that, Sagiri wonders what she will feed him since there is no instant food in the house, and she wouldn't dare open the door for a delivery, and she can't ask Elf for help because she was the one who gave Masamune the flu. So she decides to do all the household chores that Masamune does before thinking about food and ends up very tired. She is surprised to think that he does a lot of things every day, even working and going to school. After that, Sagiri calls Ayam to tell her that Masamune cannot deliver the manuscript today because he is sick, and she says that there is no problem, but everything is heard by Muramasa, who worries about his condition. When Masamune wakes up, Sagiri tells him that he has to change his shirt because the one he has is very sweaty. So he takes it off and she dries his back with a towel, which causes them both to blush deeply. Later, Megumi and Tomo go to see Masamune, but Sagiri refuses to open the door for them because she is very shy, so they talk through the mailbox slot. Tomo gives her the notes of what will be on the exam and also gives her a novel that he ordered the other day that makes Sagiri happy because she also wanted to read that novel. Later, another unexpected visitor knocks on the door. This time it is Muramasa. She comes to see how Masamune is, but Sagiri doesn't let her in either, and Muramasa starts checking all the doors and windows, but Sagiri took care of securing them all. Muramasa has no choice but to give her the things she brought through the mailbox slot. She gives her the vitamin drink that she bought to Masamune and an envelope that she forbids Sagiri to open and makes the excuse that it is from Ayan. That catches Sagiri's attention, and she opens the envelope and can't believe what was inside was a photo of Muramasa dressed as a sexy nurse. Sagiri says that she will confiscate it and use it for future illustrations. At night, Sagiri in melancholy remembers how her mother took care of her when she was sick and realizes that now it is just the two of them, so she goes down to the kitchen and cooks as an omelet as best she can. Masamune eats it grateful for her care, but unfortunately, the one who catches the cold now is Sagiri. The next day, he takes care of her and pampers her, saying that she has to get well because they have a dream to fulfill.